There's a fish that fights harder than almost anything else in fresh water, grows over 4 feet long, and tastes genuinely great once you know what you're doing. And most people who catch it will never eat a single bite. They'll take a photo, maybe wince at the teeth, and toss it back. Ask why, and you'll get a dozen different answers. It's ugly, it's slimy, it tastes muddy, it's full of bones. But here's the strange part. None of those answers hold up on their own. So what's actually going on with northern pike? Let's start with the obvious excuse. Pike are not a pretty fish. Long, flat snout like a duckbill, rows of needle-sharp teeth, a body built like a torpedo covered in slime. People have nicknamed it the water wolf, the slough shark, the snot rocket. Names that sound like something you'd throw back, not something you'd put on a plate. But looks have never stopped anyone from eating anything. Lobsters look like giant insects. Catfish look like something from a nightmare. Appearance alone doesn't explain a fish this widely avoided. So maybe it's the smell. Anglers who've handled pike will tell you it can give off a strong, almost fishy in a bad way odor right when it comes out of the water. That's real. But it's also true of plenty of fish people happily clean and cook. Smell fades once you know how to handle it. That's not a deal breaker either. It's a distraction. Next theory, taste. This is the one that actually convinces people. Ask around and you'll hear pike described as muddy, swampy, unpleasant. And for a long time, that reputation stuck hard enough that entire generations of anglers grew up believing pike simply wasn't food. Except fisheries biologists and chefs who've actually studied this will tell you something different. That muddy taste almost always comes from the skin, not the meat underneath. Skin on pike, especially cooked over heat, picks up compounds that taste exactly like the lake bottom. Skin off, properly cleaned, and you're left with white, flaky meat that multiple food writers have compared to walleye or even lobster. So the taste excuse is really a preparation excuse wearing a disguise. Which brings us to the part almost every pike angler actually complains about: the bones. And this is where things get interesting, because pike don't have normal fish bones. They have something called Y bones, a row of forked floating bones embedded directly in the muscle of the fillet, completely separate from the main skeleton. Most fish, you fillet around the ribs and you're done. Pike, you have to hunt down a second hidden bone structure buried in the flesh itself, or every bite turns into a game of Russian roulette with your throat. Why would a fish evolve this way? The honest answer is nobody fully knows for certain, but the working theory ties back to how pike hunt. They're ambush predators, explosive short-burst attackers that strike sideways at prey and need serious flexibility through the body to generate that speed. Those extra floating bones may help reinforce the muscle without stiffening it the way a rigid ribcage would. Great for catching prey, miserable for the person trying to eat the predator afterward. It's not even unique to pike. The entire family this fish belongs to, called Isosidae, shares the same bone structure. That includes muskellunge, the pike's giant cousin that can push past 50 inches, and the smaller chain pickerel found across the eastern half of the continent. All three get the same reputation. All three get released far more often than they're eaten, and all three are dealing with a problem that traces back to the same evolutionary trade-off. Whatever advantage those bones gave pike as hunters got passed down the family tree as a shared inheritance nobody in the kitchen asked for. And that one structural quirk might be the single biggest reason pike never became a mainstream food fish in North America. Removing Y bones requires a specific filleting technique, a flexible knife, and honestly, some practice. Most anglers faced with a fish that fights beautifully but takes 20 extra minutes to clean safely just don't bother. It's easier to release it and go home with something simpler. But here's where the story should end, and doesn't. Because if Y bones alone explained the whole thing, you'd expect pike to be ignored everywhere. That's not what history shows. In parts of medieval Europe, pike wasn't just eaten, it was prestigious. Archaeologists have traced pike recipes back to the Roman Empire. In some royal courts, a fully cooked pike was considered a fitting gift for a victorious knight returning from a joust. The fish even shows up painted on medieval heraldry, alongside lions and eagles. This was not a trash fish. This was a fish worth impressing people with. So Europeans had the exact same Y bones we're talking about, and they solved the problem centuries ago. Quenelles, a French dish, were essentially invented as a way to deal with pike's difficult bone structure, mincing the meat so finely that the bones become irrelevant. In parts of Germany and Poland, gefilte fish traces some of its roots back to carp and pike prepared the same way, ground down past the point where a single bone could survive the process. Smoked pike and pickled pike are still common across parts of northern and eastern Europe today, sold in markets the same way herring or trout would be sold here. None of this was a workaround people stumbled into once. It was a technique refined and passed down for generations, treated as basic kitchen knowledge rather than a specialty skill. So why didn't that knowledge cross the Atlantic with everything else Europeans brought to North America? Part of the answer is timing and geography. Pike is a cold water fish, concentrated in the northern United States, across Canada, and up into Alaska. In a lot of those regions, other fish simply won out in the kitchen first. Walleye became the dinner table standard across the Midwest. Salmon dominated the Pacific Northwest. Trout claimed the mountain streams. Pike got boxed out, not because it was worse, but because it showed up to a table that was already full. And once a fish gets labeled as the one you don't eat, that reputation becomes self-reinforcing. Fewer people cook it, so fewer people pass down how to clean it properly. So more people who do try it end up with a bony, skin-on, badly prepared fillet that confirms every bad thing they'd heard. The myth feeds itself. But there's a second force at work here, and it's less about culture and more about money. Northern pike are a massive draw for sport fishing tourism. Trophy pike lakes across Canada and the northern U.S. bring in guided fishing trips, lodges, entire local economies built around anglers chasing 40-inch fish. And the entire model depends on those big pike staying alive in the water. A lot of lodges actively encourage catch and release, especially for larger fish, because a 40-inch pike caught once might get caught a dozen more times by a dozen more paying clients over its lifetime. Keep it for dinner, and that revenue stream is gone with one fillet knife. So there's a real financial incentive built into the entire pike fishing industry to keep the message alive that pike are for catching, not eating. It's just how the economics of trophy fishing quietly shape what people believe about a fish. There's one more piece to this, and it's less mythical, more practical. Like most large predator fish, pike sit near the top of their food chain, which means they accumulate mercury and other contaminants over their lifespan faster than smaller fish do. Most fisheries agencies advise limiting how often you eat larger pike, and recommend sticking to smaller, younger fish for regular meals. It's not a reason to avoid pike entirely, but it's one more small asterisk stacked on top of everything else. Ugly reputation, tricky bones, an industry that benefits from release over harvest, and a legitimate reason for moderation. Any one of those alone wouldn't stop people from eating pike. Stacked together, they add up to a fish most people simply never give a fair chance, which is what makes this such a strange case. Pike isn't some genuinely inedible species we've correctly learned to avoid, like a fish loaded with toxins or one that tastes objectively terrible no matter what you do. It's a fish that got tangled in a mix of bad first impressions, a genuinely annoying bone structure, and an entire industry with reasons to keep it in the water. Meanwhile, across the ocean, people have been quietly perfecting how to eat it for over 1,000 years, turning the exact same problem we still complain about into a technique taught in home kitchens for generations. So next time you or someone you know reels in a pike and instinctively reaches to release it, it's worth remembering what that decision is actually built on. Mostly reputation, economics, and a bone structure nobody bothered to teach the next generation how to deal with. Northern pike went from prestige meal to catch and release curiosity.